Hello, 7th grade. Today we're going to be talking about how to solve some rate problems using equations. So these are all things that we've talked about a little bit before. We're just going to put together what we've talked about with equations with what we've talked about with rate problems. So an equation, as a quick review, when you see the word equation, I want you to look here and think equal. So an equation is something with an equal sign. So equation has equal sign. And I want to start looking at a couple of these just so that we can get some review in. And the first one I'm going to look at is just going to be 2x equals 4. 2x equals 4. Looking at this, I know a lot of us would see 2 times something is 4. Remember that if there's nothing written there, it's assumed that it's multiplication. So 2 times something is 4. A lot of us will just think, well, 2 times 2 is 4, so x has to be 2, which is an okay way to do things. So we could say x equals 2 there. But there is a better way, and that is that whenever we have equation, we have one rule. So we have our one rule for equations, which is what we do to one side, we have to do to the other. What we do to one side, we do to the other. And we will be using this one rule for a very long time. So please make sure you remember it. What we do to one side, we do to the other. And it will be showing up in a lot of other videos. So going back to my let me get that back to green. 2 times x equals 4. What I have to make sure is that what we do to one side, we do to the other. And my goal is to figure out what x is equal to. So I want to get x equals something. So looking over here, I have 2 times x equals something, which is close to what I want. But I need to get rid of this 2. So I don't like that. That 2 makes me sad, so I'm going to try to get rid of it. What it's doing right now is multiplication. The opposite of multiplication is division. So we're going to divide that by 2. So I have 2x divided by 2 equals 4. My one rule says what I do to one side, I have to do to the other. So it's going to be 4 divided by 2. This cancels. I just have x equals 4 divided by 2 is 2. And that's kind of how we work equations. We've done quite a few rate problems recently, so I'm not going to review that. We're just going to hop right in. And I want to think about some problems that could involve rates. And one of those is going to be speed. So I'm going to say that I am driving 25 miles per hour down the freeway. And I could ask after after a few hours, after 3 hours, how far did I go? So the question is, after 3 hours, what is the distance? And when I see this problem, I see miles per hour, and I know that's actually a rate. So that's 25 miles for every 1 hour. And I like fractions, so I write my rates like they're fractions. If you wanted to, you could also do 25 miles to 1 hour like this. Doesn't really make a difference, that's okay. Either way you want. And if we just work through this without using rates, we can figure out that it would then be 50 miles after 2 hours. That's 25 plus 25. And I could do it one more time to get 75 miles for 3 hours. So 3 hours should give me 75 miles, which is definitely a way to do this. It's just kind of a slow way, especially for when we have things bigger than 3 hours. So if I tried to do that for like 20 hours, that would have been really annoying to do. So the other way to do this would be to take my ratio here and to say 25 miles to 1 hour, and my proportions here should be the same. My proportions here should be equal, the same, so I'm going to put an equal sign there. And now I'm going to try to figure out how many miles. I don't know, so I'm going to write a variable. I picked x, you can pick whatever you want. And then divided by, I do know how many hours, that would be 3 hours. And now I just have to solve this equation. So I have x over 3 equals 25 over 1. I know that 25 divided by 1 is just 25, so I can go ahead and simplify that. X over 3 equals 25. My x, remember, if I'm solving an equation, I want to get x equals something. So this right here is my goal. So I want to get x equal to something, and right now I have x divided by 3 equals something. So that right there is making me sad, and I'm trying to figure out what do I do with this x divided by 3. So I have to get rid of that 3. I need to kill it, and the way I'm going to get rid of that 3 is I'm thinking, well, right now the 3 is dividing the x. So what is the opposite of division? And the opposite of division is multiplication. So I'm going to do 3 times x divided by 3. And what I do to one side of the equation, I have to do to the other, so I get 3 times 25. So I did that to one side here, and my one rule of equations tells me that I have to do that over on the right side as well. So 3 times x divided by 3 is 3 over 1 times x over 3, which is 3x over 3, which is just x. So on this side I now have x, and that's equal to 3 times 25, which is 75 every step of the way. And I end up getting that x equals 75, just like I did doing it the long way up here, 75. Or just by setting up this equation and then solving it, I get x equals 75 right there, which is the equation I'm going for. So another kind of problem we could get would say something along the lines of, if 6 books weigh 15 pounds, so 6 books weigh 15 pounds. LBS is how we abbreviate pounds. I don't know who decided that. It was not me. The question here would be, how much do 20 books weigh? How heavy are 20 books? And once again, I see a connection between books and pounds, just like earlier we had a connection between miles and hours. So I'm going to write a ratio. I like fractions. We're going to write it as a fraction. And that is going to be 6 books over 15 pounds. And that fraction has to be equal to 20 books over some number of pounds. So I don't know, I'm going to use x again for this. And this gives me a little bit of a conundrum because again I'm looking for x equals something, and right now I have x on the bottom, which is going to make my life really hard. So what I'm going to do is, if I see this, I'm just going to flip both sides. So I'm going to flip this, and I'm going to flip this. And remember that my one rule says if I do it to one side, I do it to the other. Flipping it is something I can do. So I end up with 15 over 6 equals x over 20. And that looks a whole lot nicer. So going forward from here, I need x equals something. So to get x equal to something, or something equals x, is what I want. So this 20 here is making me sad. So how do I get rid of the 20? Well, the 20 is currently dividing the x, so it's x divided by 20. The opposite of division is multiplication, so I'm going to multiply both sides by 20. And get 20 times 15 over 6 is going to be equal to 20 times x over 20. The 20s cancel out here, and I get equals x. And on this side I have 20 times 15 divided by 6. Wow. So before we work with fractions, the first thing that we should always do is see if we can simplify it, because that'll make our life a lot easier. Good news here, we can simplify it. So 15 divided by 6, both of those I can pull a 3 out of. So I pull a 3 out of 15, and a 3 out of 6. And 15 divided by 3 is 5. 6 divided by 3 is 2. So simplifying that fraction, now this doesn't look quite so hard. So 20 times 5, change 20 into a fraction, that's 20 over 1. 20 times 5 is going to be 100. Divide by 1 times 2, which is 2, equals x. I can simplify this. 100 divided by 2 is 50, is going to be my x value. So we're going to say that 20 books would weigh 50 pounds. And this is just like the problems we did before where we made a table. We'd make a table for books and weight. And filling in the table, we would have let's see, that was 6 books being 15 pounds, and then 20 books being X pounds, and finding X that way. The equation is just another way to write it, and it works just as well as anything else. So the equation is kind of a substitute for the table. If you'd still like to make the table before you make the equation, that's also okay. If we look, x over 20 and 15 over 6 are both on the table right there, so it makes our life pretty easy just beginning with. So I would like you guys to do the practice set for this. It should review what we talked about today, which is solving these proportion problems using equations. So we set up our proportion just like always. We make our rate as a fraction. After that, we solve our equation. And then we're good to go. Equation does not have a G in it. Equation. As we start moving past this, we are going to get into solving 2-step equations and 3-step equations and really exciting things, and it's going to start feeling a lot more algebra-y than pre-algebra-y, which is going to be a really great step forward in how we're doing math. So get excited for that. I'll see y'all in class.